Tonight, before you go to sleep, you're going to walk into your bathroom, pick up a synthetic brush, coat it in mint-flavored fluoridated paste, and clean your teeth. The whole process takes 2 minutes. You won't think twice about it, but for 99% of human existence, there were no toothbrushes, no fluoride, no dental floss, and definitely no mint mouthwash. If you dropped a modern human into the Pleistocene era 40,000 years ago, you'd probably assume that every single one of your ancestors was walking around with black, rotting stumps in their mouths and breath that could knock over a cave bear. Except that assumption is completely wrong. The archaeological record shows something that shocks most modern dentists. Before the invention of agriculture, prehistoric hunter-gatherers had significantly healthier teeth than you do right now. So how is it possible that humans living in caves had fewer cavities than we do in the 21st century? What happened when an ancient tooth did rot? And how did early humans deal with terrible breath when they had to live shoulder to shoulder in small, smoky shelters? The answer changes everything we think we know about ancient hygiene. To understand why ancient teeth were so surprisingly clean, you have to look at what you're actually doing when you eat. Inside your mouth right now, there is an entire ecosystem. Billions of bacteria live on your tongue, along your gums, and in the micro crevices of your enamel. Most of these bacteria are harmless, but a few species, most notably Streptococcus mutans, are specialized metabolic monsters. When you consume simple carbohydrates like sugar, white bread, or soda, these bacteria feast on the refined starches. As they digest them, they excrete lactic acid. That acid strips minerals directly from your enamel, creating microscopic pits that eventually collapse into painful cavities. For over 300,000 years, Homo sapiens didn't eat refined sugar. They didn't eat processed flour. Your Paleolithic ancestors ate wild game, tough fibrous roots, seeds, berries, and green leafy plants. That diet required an immense amount of physical chewing. A typical hunter-gatherer spent hours every day simply grinding down tough plant fibers and lean meat. And that intense physical labor did two incredible things for their teeth. First, chewing tough, fibrous plants acted as a natural mechanical toothbrush. The fibers scrubbed plaque off the teeth with every single bite. Second, all that chewing stimulated massive amounts of saliva. Saliva is packed with calcium, phosphate, and natural antibacterial enzymes that constantly wash away food particles and remineralize enamel. Analysis of fossilized dental remains from the Upper Paleolithic shows that cavity rates among hunter-gatherers routinely sat under 2% to 5%. In fact, paleomicrobiologists analyzing 48,000-year-old calcified plaque, known as dental calculus, found that early human oral microbiomes were remarkably balanced. The destructive, acid-producing bacteria that dominate modern mouths were virtually non-existent. Their breath wasn't minty, but it wasn't rotting either. It smelled like wild herbs, smoke, and meat. For hundreds of thousands of years, human biology and human diet were in perfect balance. And then, roughly 10,000 years ago, everything collapsed. It is one of the greatest ironies in human history. The moment we invented farming, our health took a nosedive. When humans abandoned the nomadic hunter-gatherer lifestyle and settled into agricultural villages, our diet radically shifted. Instead of hundreds of wild plants and animals, early farmers began relying almost entirely on a few high-carbohydrate cereal crops: wheat, barley, corn, and rice. When you chew wheat or barley, salivary amylase breaks down those complex starches into simple sugars right inside your mouth. Virtually overnight, on an evolutionary timescale, human teeth were bathed in a constant supply of bacterial fuel. In 2013, a team of geneticists at the University of Adelaide extracted ancient DNA from calcified dental plaque spanning thousands of years. Their findings were stark. The transition to agriculture triggered a massive biological takeover in the human mouth. Streptococcus mutans exploded in population, crowding out beneficial bacteria and creating a permanently acidic environment. In Neolithic farming communities, cavity rates skyrocketed from under 2% to over 15%. And in some places, over 30% of all teeth examined were riddled with decay. To make matters worse, farming introduced stone-milled grains. When early humans ground wheat using stone querns, tiny grit particles and stone dust mixed directly into the flour. Every loaf of bread was effectively filled with microscopic sandpaper. As early farmers chewed their daily bread, the stone dust wore down their enamel at a terrifying rate. Teeth were worn flat, exposing the sensitive pulp inside and creating open pathways for bacterial infection, excruciating abscesses, and foul, sulfurous bad breath. Suddenly, for the first time in human history, tooth decay was an epidemic. And without modern antibiotics or dental clinics, an infected tooth wasn't just painful, it could poison your bloodstream and kill you. Humans needed a solution, fast. Picture a morning in northern Italy, 14,000 years ago, thousands of years before the first pyramid was ever built. A young hunter-gatherer is sitting by a fire, clutching the side of his face in agony. One of his lower molars has developed a deep infected cavity. The pain is throbbing, radiating up into his jaw. He doesn't have pain medication. He doesn't have an electric drill, but he has something just as important: sharp flint tools, observational intelligence, and raw desperation. He leans his head back against a rock while a member of his band kneels over him holding a tiny, razor-sharp flint microblade. Using the pointed stone tip, the ancient operator begins painstakingly picking, scraping, and carving away the rotten, infected dentin inside the tooth cavity. We know this happened because in 2015, archaeologists examining a 14,000-year-old skeleton known as Villabruna 14 discovered microstriations and tool marks under an electron microscope inside the cavity of his lower molar. It is the oldest verified evidence of dental surgery in human history. But the ancient dentists didn't just pick out the rot. Leaving an open hole would mean food particles would get trapped, leading to immediate reinfection. So they engineered a filling. Archaeologists found traces of bitumen, a naturally occurring mineral tar, stuffed into the scraped cavity. The sticky, waterproof resin acted as a protective cap, sealing the sensitive nerve off from air, food, and bacteria. In 2012, another team working in Slovenia discovered a 6,500-year-old human jawbone, where a cracked tooth had been capped with melted beeswax. The beeswax sealed the exposed dentin, reducing acute sensitivity and allowing the individual to chew without blinding pain. When stone tools weren't enough, early humans turned to nature's pharmacy. Long before synthetic toothbrushes, humans across Africa, Asia, and Europe used chew sticks. They took twigs from specific trees, like Salvadora persica, the toothbrush tree, neem, or oak, and chewed one end until the wood fibers frayed into a natural bristle brush. These weren't just mechanical scrubbers. Plants like Salvadora persica contain natural chemical warfare agents, high concentrations of silica to scrub plaque, fluoride compounds, sodium bicarbonate, and antibacterial tannins that kill halitosis-causing bacteria on contact. And when a toothache became unbearable, our ancestors knew where to look. In 2017, genetic analysis of dental plaque from a Neanderthal skeleton in El Cedron, Spain, revealed something astonishing. The Neanderthal had a severe dental abscess visible in his jawbone. Trapped inside his fossilized plaque were genetic sequences of poplar bark, a natural source of salicylic acid, the active ingredient in modern aspirin, and traces of penicillium mold, a natural antibiotic. Nearly 50,000 years ago, Neanderthals were self-medicating toothaches with primitive pain relievers and mold-based antiseptics. So where does that leave us today? If you've ever had to get your wisdom teeth pulled, or worn braces for years to straighten crooked teeth, you've experienced the physical legacy of this ancient shift. Your ancestors almost never had crooked teeth or impacted wisdom teeth. Why? Because their skulls were shaped by heavy mechanical use. When a child chews tough, unprocessed food for hours every day, the mechanical stress forces the jawbone to grow wider, longer, and thicker. This creates plenty of room for all 32 adult teeth, including wisdom teeth, to emerge straight and functional. Modern humans eat soft, ultra-processed food from infancy. Our jaws don't get the physical workout they evolved to expect. As a result, modern human jaws develop smaller and narrower, leaving zero room for our wisdom teeth, forcing them to grow sideways into our gums, trapped in an evolutionary mismatch. Your modern body is running on 300,000-year-old Stone Age software. Your mouth was built for tough game, fibrous roots, and constant saliva flow. Instead, it's submerged in a daily environment of refined sugars, acidic sodas, and soft processed calories that our oral microbiome was never designed to handle. Tonight, when you pick up your toothbrush and stand in front of the mirror, take 5 seconds to register what you're actually doing. You are continuing a 300,000-year struggle. Your Paleolithic ancestors sat around campfires, picking food out of their teeth with bone splinters and chewing aromatic birch resin to freshen their breath. They scraped cavities with razor-sharp flint blades. They sealed cracked enamel with melted beeswax and mineral tar. They chewed willow bark to dull the agony of an abscess, and they shared the burden of survival when their bodies broke down. We traded the tough, fiber-rich diets of the wild for the comfort of soft food and refined sugar. We accidentally created a global crisis of tooth decay, and then spent the next 10,000 years building modern dentistry to fix what our lifestyle broke. The humble toothbrush in your hand isn't just a plastic bathroom accessory. It's an ultimate defense tool in a biological war that made us who we are. If you made it this far, you are the exact kind of person this channel exists for. We make deep dive documentary essays like this about human history, ancient biology, and the hidden gaps between the world we were built for and the world we live in now. If that's something you want more of, hit the subscribe button below. It costs nothing, and it tells the algorithm that this kind of storytelling is worth keeping alive. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.